that question in this room, and I was told the answer by the select board was it was only going to be for equipment. There wouldn't be people in there. Now, I certainly understand that COVID happened and we needed to have more room for people. I understand that. But the two reasons given here were there's just a request for another year, and then it said because there's a study being done, and it would be helpful to do the study for the DPW to have people over here. I have questions about why people would need to be over at the dump for you to study where the DPW should be. And part of the reason, I would add, that we said that there would not be people at Central Avenue was because we had done a study of the potential of using, putting the DPW over at the dump, and in fact, having people cross Central Avenue and park their cars at Claxton Field and walking across. And the PARE, P-A-R-E, was the company that did the traffic study for the town, and it's still online and you can see it. And it pointed out that the sight lines exiting the dump are not consistent with what is required with safety because of the curves on Central Avenue. And the exit going in and out is at a level D one way or an E, and an E is below what you want it to be. So I don't understand. You all have to vote and figure this out. I get that. But I understood putting people in there for COVID. I understood that. But we're all here now. Like, things are changing. And this should not be an open door thinking, well, we put people there, it kind of worked, it's okay. Give them an inch and take a mile. There was a real reason why we said no. And literally, we voted to build the building with the understanding that it would only be used for equipment. So that's my comment. And I think that's what we should stick with. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, do you have any reason to believe that the town would otherwise intend to extend that space beyond this additional extension to staff, DPW, or other town employees?
I do not. I do not. And I should say that, you know, in recognition of the representations that were made to town meeting and to the planning board when this was first being permitted, we have attempted to sort of keep this request on a relatively short leash. We have, you know, I thought we have not asked, certainly not asked for this to become permanent, and we don't anticipate ever doing so. But given present staffing needs, you know, we do think the additional year is a reasonable request, but also one that will allow the building to revert back to its originally permitted form in the relatively short term.
There's discussion in the room, so I'll ask the residents, if you come to the microphones, we can hear you.
I guess I literally just don't understand why there is a desire to have 16 people over here for a year. Like, it's not, I mean, I understood why we said to put them there, and that was because we wanted more space, we wanted social distancing for COVID. I understood that, but those things have changed. So why are we leaving them there?
We still want those things, I think. Certainly, we are returning more to normal, but there is still a need among the DPW staff to space the employees out in a way that cannot be done without the use of this building.
Well, can it be for 3 months to or to the end of the year, which is when actually there's some review of whether the pandemic emergency will be lifted then? I mean, a year just, I mean, literally, if you could do anything, those 16 people would say thank you if you could get them off Central Avenue over the next 2 months. I'm not kidding. It's that hard. When people are telling you how tough the traffic is on Central Avenue, it's because it really is. And again, right now, it's one lane. It's not like it's only one lane each way, but right now it's down to one lane with traffic guidance. So if it's true, I mean, and again, I reacted to your letter, which it said was because there was the other reason given was because there was a study going on about the DPW. And that just disconnected to me, because it doesn't matter where your folks are if you're just studying what you want to do. And we could have that discussion if somebody comes up and says, we want to put people at DPW. We've had that discussion before. The decision got made, it got built the way it got built with the input of everyone. It was an agreed upon recommendation to town meeting, and town meeting literally said no. Like, this is why we said it was gonna be equipment, and the planning board certainly agreed. So I just don't understand why it would be certainly I don't understand why it'd be for a full year.
Holly,
But
despite what the president said, I don't think we're done with the pandemic. I think that there is, among the medical community, there is a consensus that there is a good possibility, if not a probability, that we're going to have a surge. So to me, going until the end of the year isn't going to do the trick. If we're going to have a surge, it's going to go through the winter months. Now, maybe March 3 days has September, April, June, and November. Maybe March 31 might make more sense than August 31.
I would leave that to your discretion.
The construction on Central Avenue had better be done before frost.
Right. From your lips.
And in fact, I noticed during our break that my wife sent me an email about, which I hadn't gotten from the town, about the fact that they're going to be turning off our water while they do the water main breaks, and they hope to give us 48 hours notice. Yeah, Central Avenue is going to be a mess for a while, and it's probably going to be a mess for the next couple of months.
Right.
And
I totally appreciate the town is trying to balance things, and I appreciate the position that you all are in. But even 6 months, I think, sends a clear message that this was important. And if in 6 months, let's hope that we're on the other side and everybody's gotten their boosters and we're more agreed that things can be closer. But we, like, part of what I think is we're all here. Okay, we're like things have changed. So even if it was 6 months, I think that would send a message that, we have our eyes open, and this board certainly is willing, and even I am willing to come back, and if 6 months, it still makes sense, then 6 months makes sense. I mean, they did not ask for a year when they came first, right? This board hasn't extended it for a year beforehand, and there were different circumstances. And I feel like I should be quiet because you were all really nice to let me to chime in here, but how about 6 months makes sense?
People are reading my mind tonight. Mr. Alpert read my mind because I was supposed to say March 31st. Ms. Clark read my mind because she used my exact words that were in my head, and that is, it sends a message.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I recognize that it's, that in the present moment, one lane on Central Avenue, which is a major arterial road, not just for our town, but for the other towns, even as far as Medfield and further, that use it, and it causes congestion, and that project will continue until that work is done, and it's obviously required work. And I recognize that the town does still have a need to be able to safely house their staff, and what be the balance. I also think it's true that while in the moment right now, you and I are physically in the room, given a potential surge, as people have mentioned, we can anticipate that that surge would occur in the winter months when less people are outside and more people are inside. And yet I'm not hearing enough of a reason to extend it for the full year. I'm not sure that March 31, when April can still be a pretty cool month, and there's often that surge. We got a couple of warm weeks in March, and then we come back in April, and there's like another surge. So I might think to extend that to the end of April, April 30. But I would like to find a balance here. Chris, Natasha, I see that your hand is up. I just see your hands up. But Chris, would you be amenable to reviewing this October 30?
Sorry,
April. April 30, I apologize. Thank you, Paul, for the correction.
It's your permit that we are asking you to modify. So, the will of the board is the will of the board. The request from the applicant, which really is the DPW and the DPW director that is responsible for scheduling and staffing all of the DPW employees who work out of this building currently and out of the DPW headquarters across town. The request was for August 31st, 2023. If the board wants to approve something short of that, that is certainly within the board's discretion.
Thank you, Chris. Natasha, I recognize you.
Thank you. And Mr. Heap, when is the feasibility study supposed to be completed?
I meant to double check that before tonight, but I don't know the precise anticipated due date for that report.
So I think my position is, I live across the street from Holly. I understand the issues with Central Ave, Holly. I totally get it. I also sat on PPBC for 10 years, and I understand the lack of office space and lack of space in DPW and the difficulty of finding places for people. So I guess what I would want to hear is, when is the feasibility study completed? If it's completed in November, then March seems reasonable. If it's completed in April, then I think we need to extend it to the year. So that's kind of my take on it, just because I know that these master plans take a long time to figure out, and we have a lot of need in town. We don't have much property, and the pandemic is putting another pressure on it.
Thank you, Natasha. I recognize Artie.
Sure. Can I ask, what does the feasibility have to do with how long someone is in the Jack Cogswell building?
Because I think if the feasibility study says that they can find space elsewhere, that would inform how they'll occupy the space.
Is that what the feasibility study is for? To find other space for
I think
the
it's
existing employees?
No, I think the feasibility study is renovation of 470 Dedham Avenue or replacing 470 Dedham Avenue.
Yeah, so I'm not
Right.
sure.
So it really doesn't,
I'm not
I
sure
don't
that
know what it has to
feasibility
do with the
study has
Jack
to do with this
Cogswell building.
whatsoever. Yeah, I don't see what it has to do with this at all.
Yeah.
well,
Well,
not in the
because
time
it-
frame, I
No,
guess.
no, it has
But
nothing
doesn't it
do
have
with-
to do with where these people are going? And that's why they're extending it, so they can figure out what the master
No,
plan
it
is?
has to do
for-
with where everybody who's in the DPW is going, not
Yeah,
just these
yeah,
16 people.
yeah.
I move that we approve a minor modification of the decision dated November 20, 2018, authorizing construction of the Jack Cogswell building to extend the time for the DPW to temporarily occupy the building through March 31, 2023.
I second that.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll come,
No, I was just going to say, you can always come back in March.
hearing none, I'll come to the vote. Paul Alpert.
Aye.
Artie Crocker.
Aye.
Natasha Spada.
Aye.
Gene McKnight.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Should we now take a motion? Well, that completes it, right?
That completes it.
What about the
No,
decision? We have to,
I make a motion that we adopt the decision as presented with the sole change of wherever October 31, 2023 appears, it be changed to March 31, 2023.
and or August 31, 20.
No, we just voted March.
I know we did. I'm saying that if it, I think the other, elsewhere in the decision, it said August.
In the
Based
decision,
on-
it said August? I thought
Right,
that,
but Jean just made a motion for March 31st.
no, the question is,
I will-
the draft decision mistakenly had
I would-
August 31. I believe that's, no,
Lee's gonna revise it.
that
I
was
think.
I will revise it so they ask for their August 31st date and we will grant them the March 31st date.
I don't see.
Their request will
I don't
stay as the
see August
request
in
was,
there
which is
either. I don't
August
see it.
31st, but we
Okay.
will grant them March.
Very good. Okay, so we have a motion by Paul. Do we have a second?
Second?
A second by Artie to approve the draft decision with the change from October
right.
to March 31, 2023. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll come to the vote. Paul Alpert.
Aye.
Artie Crocker.
Aye.
Natasha Spada.
Aye.
McKnight.
Aye,
The chair votes aye.
and I've just been provided with signature sheets for this decision, correct? I'll sign it and pass it down.
Way to go, team. Thank you. Chris,
Thank you all.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
You'll take somebody's acknowledgement right after the meeting, is that what you'll do?
I shall
So-
swear.
Is the hearing closed now, Adam?
You got pause?
Say that again, Natasha?
Are we closed now? Is the meeting?
No. The next item on our agenda is the zoning recommendation on Article 1 with, to amend the zoning bylaw with respect to the schedule of uses to allow the brew pub and a microbrewery. So on this item, I would say that we had received a letter on September 7th from Attorney George Genta saying that he'd been asked to review and comment by an undisclosed person the draft zoning bylaw, in which he made a number of legal arguments. I had asked town council to review that letter and to correct and clarify the areas of law which he's done in his letter dated September 15th. Although I think it may have been updated to September the 20th, which I believe is now part of our material. Does anyone on the planning board have any comment on our as drafted zoning bylaw amendment to allow these uses?
I've got no comment on George Genta's letter. I think he made as good an argument as he can make, and I agree with Chris Heap that the letter that we got from Chris Heap in response to that. So I have no changes based on George Genta's letter. We did have at the hearing two suggestions with regard to the industrial, the Highway Commercial 1 district and the Industrial 1 district. So we're talking about basically Gould Street, the commercial area on Gould Street, where neighbors in that area were requesting that we exclude those areas from the zoning.
We also actually had someone from that area say that they wanted it at location at Highway Commercial 1. So,
But I think that we should discuss it and come to a conclusion on it. I mean, I'm prepared to vote to leave the zoning amendment the way we've drafted it and to recommend to town meeting that it be adopted. but I think that we owe it to the neighbors to have the discussion about Highway Commercial 1 and the Industrial 1 zone there before we actually have the vote. And I feel, I agree with you, I'm fine with leaving it the way it is. I think that especially the Industrial 1 area, which is really set back from Gould Street, most of the area you go off of Gould Street and it's developed commercially near 128. And I have no problem with a brew pub, with a microbrewery
In that
being in that
location.
area.
Right.
And as far as the Highway Commercial 1 area, there are no plans to have a brew pub there now. It's not part of the special permit application that's in front of us. They could have a restaurant there. I don't see why that restaurant couldn't be a brew pub.
You don't see why a restaurant couldn't be what?
A brew pub at that location.
What about the microbrewery use? which is
I'm not
also
sure that we
yellow?
were allowing a microbrewery
We
in Highway
were.
Commercial 1.
Yeah, as drafted,
Yeah.
microbrewery would be
Page
allowed
2, number 8.
in that
Yeah.
location.
Well,
I
I think
mean-
the issue, as far as, I mean, there's a time issue as far as what time the restaurants would be open in that.
Yeah, but that would be part of the special permit process.
No, I understand that, but I think it was already stated that, you know, how factual, how definitive we define, how we make that, I'm not sure right now, but it was stated that 8 PM is the time when those businesses are gonna be operating too. A brew pub would never want to be in a place where you have to close at 8 PM, number one. So then they'd never want to be there if they.
But that's why Paul's saying that, you know, the special permit this process gives the planning board the opportunity to,
Yeah,
for instance,
no, I agree.
examine the
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And create, to create or require them to close,
Yeah.
if that's, based on the impacts
Sure.
to that neighborhood, if that's a reasonable thing to do.
But I think we can make this work. Just to verify Gould Street. Now Gould Street, is it, you're saying setback, was there any regulation, were we keeping it right off of Gould? Or is it, as far as?
The
where-
Industrial 1 district
Yep,
is the area between center line on Gould Street
Yeah.
and 128.
okay, so brew pubs can be allowed, actually, I'm okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll work, we can make it work.
I'm okay as
And again,
well.
it's by special permit.
Yeah, we can.
And
we
so
can-
to
we
have a
can make it work.
microbrewery right
Yeah.
on Gould
Yeah,
Street,
yeah.
I wouldn't vote for
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, although some people in the future may, we have to
That's true.
take that into consideration.
That's true. I'm not going to
We
be on the
always have
planning
to
board
ta-
forever.
Yeah, we always have, the thing is, we always have to, that's the delicate balance, and we have to realize that if we never want something somewhere, we should never allow it in the first place. That may come up. I think we can make this work, but that may come up.
So, Jean, go
I
ahead.
would like to suggest, with regard to Highway Commercial 1, perhaps when we drafted this language, we didn't know exactly what was going to be proposed for that site. Now we know it's an office/lab complex with restaurants that has been represented in public meetings, that they would be not open late, that they would be family-oriented, something like a brew pub, or certainly not a microbrewery, is not what's being proposed for there. What harm does it do to just take that out for Highway Commercial 1? Or at least delete microbrewery? It's just not the kind of use that fits with what's proposed for the site.
But then that precludes it from ever happening, right?
What's that, Natasha?
That precludes it from ever happening. So you're
Yes.
limited.
That and highway commercial encompasses more than this site. It encompasses this site and the adjacent property where Channel 5 is.
I understand what you're saying, Jean, but I would consider leaving it as is for now.
It's,
I get
it's,
what Natasha said.
you didn't understand what she said? She is prepared to keep it as is. to keep the zoning as
Because it
is.
includes other areas, and even though they're not doing it now, if it ever changes hands, they could propose it in the future. But it's by special permit anyway, right?
It would be by special permit, that's correct. The owner of the property has represented that they would not have a brewery. And I'm pretty certain that when he said that it was both a brew pub, he intended to mean both a brew pub and or a microbrewery. So, and you know, he's already said that he's not going to do it. The only variance to that, or variation to that, is the Channel 5 site. That because that's part of Highway Commercial 1, if that was developed.
But also, things change. In 10 or 15 years, he
Sure.
he could have tenants move out. And, you know, somebody else wants to come in and put in a brew pub or put in a microbrewery. And, you know, he may have the space, he may have empty space, and a microbrewery might fit in there. I don't see a microbrewery fitting into the building that he's proposing to build. Of course, that's assuming that we approve the special permit request that's in front of us, which we have
Yeah.
not done yet. But, but a brew pub, I think, is a possibility down the road.
So you're also advocating to keep the zoning as is?
I'm advocating to keep the zoning as it is, possibly taking out microbrewery for Highway Commercial 1. That's the only possibility. I would go along with that. But I'm fine with leaving it the way it is also.
I'm unmoved. I could go either way with the microbrewery. I mean, some of the microbreweries, you know, tend to be larger. We've heard from we've testimony from the owners of Mighty Squirrel that their facility, I think, is 17,000 square feet, and they produce, you know, I think they produce more than the amount that we're allowing. A microbrewery, in theory, would be a smaller facility. A brew pub would be a smaller facility. Artie, do you feel strongly one way or the other?
Well, my concern is that, you know, there was a comment that, you know, 15 years from now, so my concern is that, okay, the Muzzy, I keep calling the Muzzy site.
It is the Muzzy site.
It's the Muzzy site. It's literally across the street from that now is going to be independent living and assisted living. Wingate is changing. The other side is there's residential properties on the other side. I would personally never want businesses there that are going to be open beyond 8 o'clock. Which in my mind means that if a brew pub, if the owner of that property, you know, 15 years from now, 10 years from now says, you know what, I got the space, I want to bring this other thing in, and when they come in here and at that point, the board is different, which it's going to be, and they, for some reason, don't feel the same way we do about the residences around that area, and they say, sure, 10, 11 o'clock is fine. Okay, that's a possibility. I personally don't want that to ever be a possibility, personally.
So so are you advocating to remove both uses or just the microbrewery use?
Well, the funny thing is, the interesting thing is, I mean, a brew pub is the one that's more, and please correct me on this one. The brew pub, in my mind, seems to be more of one that would be wanted to be open late, okay, versus a microbrewery is a little more of a manufacturing facility that would probably is never going to be in that corner anyway.
That's actually not true.
That's not true?
There are over 220, I think, brew pubs just in Massachusetts alone, and which is, you and I will do our own little investigation.
Yeah.
But having said that, you know, there are all kinds of business models. You can have smaller microbreweries that want to be open, and you can have a brew pub like any other restaurant in town that would want to be able to stay open beyond 8. So if that's your rationale, and you want to make a motion to remove both uses at that site, on that zoning district, that's fine,
Well,
make the motion.
Here's the quagmire, here's the problem, okay? Then you go down Gould Street, and then you go, you know, off of Gould Street, then you get into an area which would probably make more sense. I mean, there's Bin Ends, so is it Bin Ends?
That's
I mean,
industrial
I mean,
one, right?
Bin Ends is down there. Is that the same? Isn't that highway?
Yes, exactly.
Is that the?
That's an industrial zone, industrial.
Oh,
one.
that's,
The commercial zone is only the Muzzy side and the Channel 5 side, the commercial one on this side.
Go to a different site.
oh, I'm talking, okay.
So let's,
Okay.
His ends is in industrial one.
What is down Brule Street? What is it right along Brule Street as you go past Channel 5?
that's
Industrial.
industrial one,
Okay,
different
then,
district.
then I would propose eliminating from the Highway 1 where the Muzzy Ford site is.
So-
Both purposes.
So forgive me, but I hear Artie making a motion to remove the brew pub and the microbrewery use from the Highway Commercial 1 district.
Which is, we're talking about the Muzzy Ford Channel 5.
Yes, correct.
Then I would propose eliminate from that district because I would never want it there for the neighbors.
So that motion is made by Artie Crocker,
Second,
second by Gene McKnight. Any discussion?
yes, I also want to mention that I can imagine us at town meeting trying to defend having these uses in that zone and that being the big issue and making it difficult for this to even pass. I definitely think we should get rid of it.
What about an industrial one?
I do think industrial one is different.
Yes, I agree.
Down by the highway.
Yeah,
It depends on the site, it's
down there.
still
I mean, there are
special
some
permit,
residences down
and
there.
it depends on the site. Yeah.
All right, so that's our discussion. We'll come to the vote. Paul Alpert,
Aye.
Artie Crocker,
Aye.
Natasha Spada,
Aye.
Gene McKnight,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So we have now decided to, and Lee, we'll need to modify the zoning because we're
Right.
going to remove both classes of uses from Highway Commercial 1. So now, as to the remaining elements of the zoning bylaw amendment, does someone want to make a motion to approve the as now amended, as further amended tonight?
Do we vote to approve, or do we just vote to recommend to town meeting for passage?
I think that's what we do.
You vote to recommend a town meeting passage of the article in the now amended form.
So moved.
Exactly my motion.
We have a motion
Second.
with thanks to Lee Newman, made by Paul Alpert, seconded by
Second.
Gene McKnight. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll come to the vote. Paul Alpert.
Aye.
Artie Crocker. Gene McKnight.
Aye.
Natasha Spada.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. We have unanimously decided to recommend to town meeting that they vote the as amended this evening bylaw. I agree. Thank you. We have voted the minutes for July 7 and July 12. Lee, do you have a report for us this evening?
I just have a couple brief things I want to put on people's radar screen, and I'll be quick because I know it's late. On September the 28th, Adam and Jean and I are going to the FinCom to answer their questions on the zoning article. On September 29th, the Housing Plan Working Group is going to be reviewing the draft housing plan in preparation for a meeting that you're invited to on October 11th, which is a presentation of that draft plan, followed by the community meeting on the draft housing plan, which is presently scheduled for October 13th. And I just want to remind people that I sent you an email. Adam is looking to put on the calendar the board's first planning meeting, and the date we were floating was October 20th. And I think I heard from Jean, but I haven't heard from anybody else as to whether or not that's a doable date.
And that date again was what?
October the 20th.
And what is the time of the meeting and how long is it?
It would be an evening meeting, and I would imagine, I think Adam wanted to start it at 7 o'clock. Adam, so what were you thinking, 2 hours?
I was thinking we'd probably go till it would be the first meeting for the planning board to actually to get into a planning session. So I would think at least 9:30. but I would probably call it by then. With nothing else on the agenda under any circumstance.
I think there is one thing I want to point out. If you do this as a hybrid meeting, you're not going to have cable that night. They're not covering Thursday meetings. They're making an exception for the community meeting that we're doing, but they don't have the staff to cover Thursday meetings. So you probably would be using all technology, or you'd have to be meeting solely by Zoom.
Artie, we have Exchange Club that night.
Oh, very good.
Would you be willing to fade Exchange Club for this, or can we do Wednesday, October 19th instead?
We have the planning board meeting the night before,
Right.
and it's 11:30 too. So I can't do 2 nights in a row.
Okay. I don't know why not. You're younger than I am, Natasha.
I got up at 6 this morning and I haven't stopped working. So
Jean just said that she would prefer the 19th.
And I'm not sure what else, we can try to limit, Lee. Right now, all we have on the agenda, if I understand correctly, is 100 West Street. Is that right?
Well, you're going to have decisions probably.
Yeah, but those we can read beforehand.
Well, also, when I said, we have an application now for the solar on top of 140 Kendrick Street. So that will either be on the 18th or the meeting after that. No, yes, that's right. It'll either be the 18th or the meeting in November.
In other words, Natasha, if we could get out of the meeting on the 19th by 10 p.m.
No, meeting on the 18th. 10 p.m.
Yeah, the 18th, by 10.
If we could get out of the meeting on the 18th,
Both nights by 10.
Yeah.
Well, what about the following week on the 20th? How about the following Wednesday? Is that better? And then it's an off meeting. It's an off meeting for Natasha. We don't have any other planning board meetings in that. How about the following week, the 26th?
Oh, that's good. I like that.
That's good.
I like that.
What are we talking about?
the
Wednesday, the
26th
26th.
of October.
Sure.
And which meeting is this for?
This is going to be a planning
board
meeting.
planning meeting.
Planning goals.
Yes.
Planning board goals meeting.
Yes.
Okay. All
I
right.
like that night much better.
So we're going to do October 26th.
Would it be at 7?
Yes.
Where?
I'm not sure yet. I've got to find a location. I didn't explore that date yet.
that works better for me. But
The only thing is that town meeting isn't one night, it might go to Wednesday, but I know everyone's trying to have town meeting be one night.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
And that's going to be,
God.
that's probably going to be, well,
Oh, geez. Oh, geez.
Town meeting's on the 24th. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
wait,
How about
where's,
the 27th? What about Thursday, the
Yeah, how about Thursday,
27th?
the 27th?
Thursday, the
That
27th.
works for me.
Okay, again, you will not have cable and we'll have to probably, if it's hybrid, we'll have to use an owl or we'll have to meet by Zoom.
What?
We,
we
Echo.
could use the owl, I think, because we did it for the,
we have to use the owl through a hybrid meeting. Cable will not cover you on a Thursday night.
but we can do the owl, right?
You can do the owl.
Yeah.
We'll just be in, probably, we'll be in a different room, I don't know what room.
you mean,
I have an hour here.
but do they have an owl in in the Charles River room?
I think the room probably booked that night, looks like it is.
So we
But they have them in.
So we'd have to do Zoom, I think.
could have an in-person meeting. It doesn't have to be a hybrid meeting by law, right?
I think by law, we don't have to be hybrid or, so we could do all Zoom
We
potentially.
could do Zoom, we could do in person.
Do Zoom, all Zoom, or we could do in person.
Well, with
Let's-
Zoom, I think you'll have, if you're hybrid or by Zoom, I think you'll have more coverage and it will be recorded and people can look at the meeting afterwards.
All right, let's plan it for the 27th, and then if we can't get a room, we'll change it.
All right, so that's good. I'm glad we're going to start. And again, I just asked planning board members, and this Natasha and Jean, that with regard to, the housing, your working group on Housing to, come with suggested ideas for specific zoning changes.
That's what we should have.
Exactly. So you may not have it drafted, but you'll have a plan that can be that we can execute by town meeting to take some specific action.
Mhm.
All right.
It might be too much pressure for Karen to get the actual final plan done for that meeting. But the zoning recommendations would certainly, I think, have finalized by then and be able to present them
Lee, do you
as
have
part
anything-
of the meeting.
Thank you. Lee, do you have anything else?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Alex, do you have anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Artie Crocker, seconded by Paul Alpert. Any discussion? Hearing none, I come to the vote. Paul Alpert.
Aye.
Artie Crocker. Natasha Spada.
Aye.
Gene McKnight.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Sorry to keep you so